I'm trying to complete every lifetime wish in The Sims 3. This video is going to start off a little different than the last. If you missed the last lifetime wish video we completed, no problem. But shameless plug here, I highly suggest you go watch it. I put a lot of work into these videos and your views are greatly appreciated. If you don't feel like it though, in that video I rolled the wish for this episode and the traits, so we don't have to do that part. I did this because I wanted you guys to give me suggestions for mini challenges that we could try to complete as we seek to finish this episode's wish. As always, I want to say thank you for all the support on the series. And with that said, let's quickly revisit the wish and the traits and see what mini challenges that I got from your suggestions. The wish we rolled? Visionary. Reach level 10 in the painting and photography skills. The traits we rolled? Eccentric, loves the heat, great kisser, night owl, and childish. Pretty straightforward wish for you guys to give me mini challenges for, so let's see what ideas you gave me. Disclaimer before we review, these are mini challenges. They are not required for me to finish the wish. Also, per some comments, I will not give myself any benefits from completing these. Think of them more as a background goal to help shape the story of the sim and give me, the player, an additional challenge than only focusing on the lifetime wish. After reading through some of the comments, I tried to pick out the biggest recurring themes and make something achievable without deviating too far from the wish or diving too deeply into what will probably be a future wish for another episode. So here are the mini challenges. Number 1, travel to each travel destination at least once, since photography came with World Adventures Pack. And while you're there, you might as well work on number 2. As a great kisser and childish, this sim lives in the moment. So have a romantic interest from each location, including the homeworld. That romantic interest can be inspirational though, so number 3, create an artistic collage dedicated to each romance. But you need a place to put all of this, so number 4, open an art museum to keep all of your works in, and since you can't come off as a complete obsessive maniac to the public, number 5, try to complete at least 3 photography collections so no one thinks you're a lunatic. I think that's a good starting point. So let's not waste any more time and get into the lifetime wish. This is D'Angelo Michaels, local resident of the sunny desert town of Lucky Palms. D made his way through high school, struggling a bit along the way, but finding a passion for art. Unable to decide between painting and photography as a focus to hone his talents, he decided, why not do both? So after graduation, he got himself a little trailer, filled it with toys and stuff that he enjoyed, and set his mind to becoming the greatest artist in Lucky Palms. His first purchase after moving in was a drawing pad. He needed to keep practicing, and a camera seemed a little too expensive for now, so drawing it is. He then took a quick trip to the grocery store and promptly found a nice little park across the street to sit and do some sketching. Then he remembered that even though he couldn't afford a camera, he had one in his pocket with his cell phone. So he snapped a pic of the park, getting his first photo of a nice garden worth $0. He was on his way. He also snagged a pic of some flowers and this random guy for a sim in the area. After that, he made his way over to the gym to see if he could find any more interesting subjects to capture, and he got a sim working out for fighting the flab. And while he was around, he jogged on the treadmill for a bit before taking a quick shower and heading home. It was still early for most, but D always preferred the night, so he turned in early so that he could get up again at 10:30 and enjoy the glorious beauty and peace of the night. Then he thought that it'd be fun to go out for a bit. For some reason, he thought it'd be a good idea to walk across the entire desert, even sinking his feet into the ground a couple of times to make sure that he could feel the sand. As he walked, he noticed a glowing light. Is it aliens? Is it aliens again? No, it's a unicorn. Doesn't have a horn for some reason, but it's definitely a unicorn. D'Angelo knew no one would believe him, so he pulled out his phone to snap a pic, getting an image of a horse. Seriously, there is no unique picture for capturing a unicorn on photo. That seems like a miss. Since he was out and it was now way too late to go anywhere, being 4 a.m., D went to town and grabbed some more photos. He snagged one of the office building for places in town, one of the stadium for the appropriately named sports stadium, and then made his way over to City Hall to register as a photographer. He might as well be making some money from this, right? While he was there, he snagged a pic of City Hall, then the hospital, then a local park with a kids' jungle gym for backyard fun. After that, he finally thought it was time to call it a day and headed home. He went through the photos he had taken and sold what he didn't want to get his first promotion before spending the rest of the day practicing his speech. He really didn't do much when he woke up, going out in the town, but there wasn't anything to see, so I dropped some clubs from my library so that he would have some place to visit while he stays up all night. Since there wasn't too much to do, he did some sketching on his drawing pad and went to sleep at around 1 p.m. This gave him the perfect timing to wake up right when the new dance club in town opened, and he headed over to have some fun. Hey, Editing Mari here. Forgive me, but at this time, I had just installed a new module for the NROS story progression into my game, and I noticed that it was making Sims gain celebrity levels like crazy. I hadn't learned the best way to tweak the settings yet, so anytime they moved, they were gaining celebrity levels. I didn't do this for all the townies, but I would manually remove the level from D'Angelo sometimes because it didn't seem fair. I eventually get this in check, but don't be confused if you see him with the level and then it's gone. Just thought that I'd call that out. Alright, back to D'Angelo now. He struck up a conversation with the local celebrity, Darren Dreamer, easily impressing him and finding a new friend to dance with while he hung out at the club. Before the night was over, Darren was officially D'Angelo's first friend, and he grabbed another pic before heading home to get some sleep at 6 a.m. He put his pictures of his new friend on the wall, and the next afternoon when he woke up, did some more sketching and headed out to another bar for some more fun. It was pretty dead though, so after grabbing a bite, he just went home. He was just in time for a random event to trigger and spawn a bunch of trash. This was actually a surprise win though, because a maid offered to help him clean, allowing Dee to get a pic of a maid at work before spending the rest of the night sketching. He drew this picture that looked just like Darren. I mean, tell me that's not Darren. They look identical, and put it on his wall next to Darren's photo. The next afternoon, he headed over to the consignment store to see if he could sell any of his photos for a higher profit and ran into Darren. After listing what he could with the shop, he talked to Darren for a while, then headed over to the local art gallery at 12 a.m., which is a completely reasonable time to be at an art gallery, and did some more sketching, before going home and heading to bed. The next day, Dee wanted to do something different, so he headed to the salon and got himself some tattoos. D'Angelo realized just how irresponsible he had been with his cash, as he only had 98 simoleons to his names and the bills were due. 5,000 simoleons? Are you kidding me? There was no way he was going to be able to afford that, and he was absolutely not going to be able to stop what was inevitably going to happen. So Dee just decided to do what he could to recover after the city found out that he couldn't pay. He did some dumpster diving and managed to pull enough stuff from the trash to afford his first purchase towards his master plan of becoming a great artist. An easel, and he was back down to 58 simoleons. Finally having an official way to practice painting, he spent the next day working on his new easel, only managing to make 339 simoleons before his time was up. Not wanting to lose the easel or the pictures he had taken up to this point, D'Angelo hid them in the family storage just as he got the message that he was going to be getting a visit from the Repo Man. The first thing she took was his shower, because of course, who needs to smell good? She proceeded to take so much. I'm not kidding. His house was not worth a lot, so she was here for hours just sucking up D'Angelo's stuff with her oddly sci-fi repo ray. It did give Dee a chance to snag a picture of her to get Repo Man added to his collection of photos. By 6:30 p.m., she finally got enough to cover his insane 5,000 simoleon debt, and Dee was left with enough to survive, minus the loss of his shower, and a yard full of trash since that random event spawned again, leaving him infested with rats. The struggling artist's life is real. Recovering as best he could, he replaced his easel and all of his paintings and spent the little money he had on a cheap shower replacement. With 31 simoleons to his name, he had no idea what he would do if the bills ended up that high again. The next day, D'Angelo was disgraced for having the Repo Man come, which isn't actually a lie, but he still sued for slander anyway and managed to get 1,000 simoleons in his pocket to not feel so broke for once. He thought he would celebrate by hanging out with his friends, so he called up Darren and they went to dinner at the diner before D'Angelo went home to spend the night like he normally did, painting. He spent the next few days focused on painting to try to build up his bank account. He wanted to travel eventually, but with his money troubles taking the spotlight lately, he knew he had to get a steady flow of cash before he could do that. After getting to about 2,000 simoleons, the most cash he had seen in a while, he planned his first trip. Egypt felt like the perfect first destination for D'Angelo. It was warm, sunny, and sandy, just like Lucky Palms, so he should feel right at home. He documented his arrival by snapping a pic of the tents at his camp, then checked for some tourist activities on the board. Before he got sucked into anything, though, he thought that he should explore and get some good photos, so he visited the market. He had enough to buy a cheap camera and food, finally upgrading from his cell phone. He grabbed some photos around the market to test out his new equipment, then headed off to talk to the tour guide. The guy told Dee that he should check out a tomb, and while that didn't sound very touristy, he thought that he could get some cool shots, so he planned to head there after he did a bit more exploring. First, he wanted to get some shots of the coolest sights Egypt had on display, so he wandered into the desert to get a picture of the pyramids. The shot was worth 140 simoleons and helped D'Angelo complete the Architectural Eye Skill Challenge. This was for capturing 10 unique landmarks. It would increase the value of all photographs featuring landmarks. Not bad. Every shot he took with his new camera cost him money though, so Dee was down to a single simoleon to his name. He moved on to enter the tomb and went back to using his cell phone to grab some more shots of the tomb sites. Exploring the tomb resulted in some artifacts that he could sell for a few hundred simoleons and put him back in the positive for finances, for a while. Then returning to the tour guide who did no guiding at all, he was told to talk to a woman named Tahia. With little money to do anything else, D'Angelo greeted the woman and was now tasked with finding 4 pieces of turquoise. He did notice how excited Tahia was to see him though. Apparently, his small amount of notoriety had traveled all the way overseas, so he did what he always did when he wanted to strike up a conversation. Take a random picture of her and then yap about whatever came into his mind. He had also managed to amass 12,000 lifetime reward points, so he spent a few on some social perks like Observant to pick up on Sim's traits quicker. After chatting for a while and finding out that Tahia was artistic, he knew he liked her for a reason. He decided to head back out into the desert since he had some more money to take some more photos. He got a shot at the Great Sphinx, then returned to camp to do some sketching and turned in for the night. The next day he ran around to grab the needed turquoise, grabbing a picture of the Torch of Anubis and Abu Simbel, pretty sure that's how you say it, before getting bored and returning to Tahia that night just to chat some more. She was really nice to him, and he found out that she was into art, so D'Angelo turned on the charm quickly, becoming friends, and after a few good pickup lines, he just went for it. Those lips aren't just good for talking, you know. You guys know my rules, though. If you're going to be a romantic interest, then... there we go. D'Angelo couldn't pass up an opportunity to capture his current fixation, so he got a picture of Tahia to put on his wall back at home. They spent the night together, and the next morning D'Angelo set out to find the last piece of turquoise for her. He returned to her triumphant and got another smooch as a reward before venturing off to get some more photos for the last few hours of his trip. He returned home excited, not completely broke since he had made some money from doing tasks, and he had some photos that he could sell. I found out quickly that pictures taken from the phone did not stick around after traveling home, which is a bummer. The ones from the camera were okay though, so he had some stuff to consign to try to make some money, and he had some pictures of Tahia to add to his wall of inspiration. He had an opportunity to deliver a photo to the business office, so the next day after returning home, he turned it in for 1,400 simoleons. He was doing pretty good, but he could use a break, so he called up Darren to go to a bar and tell him about his trip. He mentioned his meeting with Tahia, and Darren revealed he was a great kisser too. D'Angelo knew he was drawn to him for a reason he hoped Darren might feel the same about. So when he hinted that they could show off their kissing skills together, it was to his surprise that Darren was into it. They spent the night chatting and doing some light flirting, but it wasn't until they went back to D'Angelo's trailer for him to... yeah, he couldn't help himself. When he clicks with someone, he goes all in. But you do know the drill. If you're a romantic interest... there we go. D'Angelo had to get an updated photo for his wall, and after some casual woohoo, he managed to get a nice still frame of Darren to paint as well. He's not obsessed, I swear, he just really gets attached to Sim to inspire him. By the next morning, his wall had expanded, and since Darren stayed over, they went out for breakfast, or more like lunch when you were on D'Angelo's time. Then he consigned his photos at the shop and worked on his painting of Darren for the rest of the day before finishing it up to put over his nightstand in his room. D'Angelo was feeling really good, so he thought that he'd change up his style to reflect his budding inspiration. then spent the next day trying to earn enough money to travel again since it had turned out so nice for him before. To fund his future trip, he hit the town to take some photos, eventually pushing him to level 6 of the photography skill and officially past the halfway point to mastering it. The next few days followed this same pattern, painting and photography around town to try to build up money so he could travel again. He soon managed to get 2,000 simoleons in his pocket and decided that was enough to splurge on another trip that could hopefully turn out lucrative for him if he went. D'Angelo arrived in China, and just like his previous trip, he took a look at something a tourist could do and set out to do some exploration. He got some good pictures and explored a basic tomb, then went out on his own to get some shots of some of the historic buildings like the Chinese Garden and the Academy. He even managed to get a shot of the martial artist practicing to get honing body and mind. His first day successful, he went back to base to sleep and go back out the next day to enjoy some egg rolls. By 12 a.m., he still wasn't really tired, so he picked up another tourist adventure that led him to the Dragon Cave. He got a picture? 1,000 simoleons? I am not going to complain about that price tag. After exploring the cave, D was finally tired, so he returned to camp. Oh look, it's Taya. What's she here for? Uh-oh. She just doesn't seem happy with D'Angelo. She must have heard about him and Darren hooking up. Who would have thought that him doing what was fun would result in someone getting upset with him? He never meant to hurt her feelings though, so he apologized and hoped that he could make her feel better over time. He would hate to lose their friendship. The events of the day finally caught up with him though, and D'Angelo passed out from the front porch before he managed to crash in bed. Once he was back at Lucky Palms, D wasted no time going to consign some of the photos that he took. They were worth a lot, and with only 500 simoleons to his name, he could use the money. The next few days were pretty straightforward, with D'Angelo getting the payout from his photos selling, going out in the town for some fun at night, running into Daring and fixing his makeover since he apparently aged up into an adult since I last saw him, and he completed some tasks for celebrity level influence for more cash and notoriety. He sold more photos for a hefty amount and found himself close to 10,000 simoleons for the first time, a vast difference from where we were at the beginning of his journey. He couldn't stop though, so he practiced his painting, got the random event to pay his taxes, which deleted 3,000 simoleons from his bank account. Too real, game. Calm that down. And after selling his last bits of painting with 7,000 simoleons in his name, he decided to travel. Again. D'Angelo's trip to France was his third travel destination and completes our first mini-challenge of visiting all of the travel locations at least once. The trip began similar to the others. He got something to do from the board and went exploring. He almost immediately ended up at the Nectary and started to get to know some of the locals. He hit it off with one woman, but he didn't spend too much time talking before getting distracted by taking some pictures of the architecture. Once he exhausted his shots at the Nectary, he moved on to the market, getting a picture of a French market and completing his first collection with architecture and buildings. The next morning, this guy, Yusuf, caught his eye. Totally didn't have anything to do with him walking around in just a towel. Regardless, D started a conversation. After speaking, D'Angelo found out he too was artistic at heart and a lover. No wonder he was drawn to him. I told you it had nothing to do with him walking around the place shirtless. They chatted for a while longer, but it really didn't go much further than that until D'Angelo ventured back to the market to get some more photos. He grabbed some local cuisine, his favorite actually, frog legs, and went back to base camp to spend some time sketching. The next day of his trip was quiet, so D'Angelo returned to the market and introduced himself to some more people. He and the special merchant definitely clicked, with her gravitating to him before he even spoke to her. They chatted for a while and Dee turned on the charm, as he always did when he felt inspired by someone. Oh yeah, she was into it. You know my rule though, if you're a romantic interest... There we go. He of course had to immortalize his memory of her and her inspirational kisses by getting some photos for his wall. With not much time left in his trip after that, he visited the graveyard for some reason and did some sketching in the dark before it was time to head back to Lucky Palms. Returning home, he put his new inspiration on display in his room and fell back into his routine to continue on his journey of artistic discovery. He was invited to Darren's house for a visit and met his family, and got to see Darren be a good dad firsthand. No wonder he was inspired by him so much. He didn't want to intrude on Darren's family too much. He was all for a good time, but breaking up a family was not in his agenda, so he went home and worked on his painting until 3 a.m. before Darren came to visit later that afternoon. He told Darren how inspirational he was to him and asked if he could sketch him naked, because that's a normal question. Darren agreed, and I didn't think that they would do it right outside in the front door, but I'm sure they are probably both on a list now. I'm certain, actually. The next few days were quiet after that, with D'Angelo working on painting and doing random celebrity opportunities as they came up. It was Monday morning that changed his life, though. Not only was it his birthday, but a random event triggered that gave him an inheritance of 44,000 simoleons. I think it's reasonable to say that D'Angelo applied for a loan to open an art studio because, to be honest guys, one of our challenges is to do this, but I don't think it was actually possible without this boost in cash. I checked the prices at some point and they are expensive to purchase, meaning I didn't think it would be possible for me to complete that at all until this event happened. With his new windfall of money, D'Angelo went to the club to celebrate his birthday. He aged up, got the pigtail removal treatment, and enjoyed some drinks and dancing to celebrate before shutting down the club and returning home to practice painting. The next few days were uneventful. The only significant change was that D'Angelo brought himself a motorcycle as a birthday gift and worked on painting and photos that he could manage in between. After a few days of rinse and repeat life, D'Angelo needed to shake things up again, so he planned another trip. It was back to Egypt. He started his trip by going to visit Tahia. Last time they met up, she was not happy with him, but she seemed to be okay talking to him now that some time had passed. He got some more pictures of her for his inspiration wall, and she was clearly his lucky charm, because taking her picture took him to level 10 of the photography skill, being the first of the 2 he needed to master to complete his lifetime wish. He felt like he needed to give her more space though, so he took to the sand to get some more photos. He headed over to the market next, mostly to get this really nice camera to up his photo game. His celebrity status got it for free, and now that he had the best equipment, he could really let his picture skills show. He managed to get a picture of a snake charmer, and the improved image quality was already starting to show because the photo was worth 1,500 simoleons. D did eventually decide to do the task that he had and explored the pleasantly warm tomb of the burning sands. Once he left the tomb, he had a nice bunch of high-priced photos that he could sell, and returning to camp allowed him to catch some of the tourists having a water balloon fight for another entry in a photo collection. The next morning, D'Angelo returned to Tahia, and he found out that she had just entered in a new relationship. He saw how badly he hurt her when she found out about his other casual muses, so he thought it would be best if they just agreed to be friends. He didn't want to make her life more difficult than it needed to be, and though she was upset at first, she agreed that a friendship was probably the best. She could still be amused to him, he just had to turn down the smooching. He couldn't really help himself though, so he asked if he could sketch her naked as a final memory for their romantic entanglement. She agreed and stripped down right outside on the front porch. Great, Tahia's on the list now too. The next days after returning home were a grind. I was determined to save up for D'Angelo to open his own art studio. He sold all the high quality photos he took in Egypt for 20,000 simoleons. Oh yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Even with 80k, it was still not enough to purchase the studio. Those lots are quite expensive. So D'Angelo applied for another loan in the form of me using the lifetime points that he had saved until now to purchase an inheritance, and sold every painting and photo he reasonably could to finally get enough to just purchase the lot, his very own studio. And he was back down to 3,000 simoleons to his name. But like I said, he just purchased the lot. So he owned the studio, but it was still not ready for operation yet. It needed to be worth 80,000 simoleons, which despite its purchasing price, it was still about 40,000 undervalue. D'Angelo had a plan though. and in the back of his studio, he made sure to have a workroom, and in that workroom, a workbench. He could explore his more mechanically driven inspiration. Once the inspiration hit, D'Angelo was able to take his newly created invention and put it on display in his museum, and then refocus that inspiration onto the easel. With this loop of inspiration in return, D'Angelo was confident that he could get his studio open for the public. He planned a trip back to China, this time with the focus of grabbing photos that he wouldn't just sell, but be able to display in his gallery. He got great shots of the Dragon Cave, worth $2,500 this time, and the Academy and the Chinese Garden. The upside was that every day of his trip, he could retake these photos, and for the first time he did it every day, he got a high-value shot. It was getting dark, so Dee spent some time talking to the locals again. He started a conversation with Xing Hong and felt a bit of a connection with him, but he would explore that later. So he grabbed a bite to eat and went to sleep in a tent right in the marketplace. The next day, he got his photos again and went to visit Xing. D'Angelo couldn't help but flirt a little, but what he was really after was inspiration, so he asked Xing if he could draw him naked, as you do to random people that you just met. This revealed that Xing was artistic. D'Angelo knew he liked him for some reason. He was so good, in fact, that he somehow Uno reversed D'Angelo's request and Dee was somehow the one who got naked instead of Xing. Either that or D'Angelo just decided he was skipping the flirting and going straight to taking his pants off. Once his clothes were back on his body, if he hadn't made it clear, he literally stripped in the guy's hallway. He made a move and got a smooch. You know the rules, though. There we go. Of course, D'Angelo snapped some pictures to remember the moment. And if you've been keeping track, Xing becoming a romantic interest does in fact mean that we have had a romantic interest from each of the travel locations, completing another of the mini challenges. The last day of the trip was pretty much the same, so we won't spend too much time on it. Just know that he took pictures every day and eventually headed home with a memory card full of good images for his gallery. Once he was back, it was time to sort out the images. Putting these high-value photos in the gallery should help bump its value. It still wasn't enough, but it got D'Angelo closer to officially being open. He went back to his new secret method of creativity, creating something cool on his workbench and then turning it into art. An opportunity eventually pulled him away, and he went to the bistro to have a meal. A meteor shower? Well, that was certainly an eventful dinner. And D'Angelo could grab a picture and collect it. It would go very nicely in his gallery. Things were pretty quiet as he worked on his skills and getting the studio open, but he had another gracious benefactor donate to him. Basically, another random event triggered, and it gave him inheritance. D'Angelo really wanted to get the art gallery open on his own though, so since he already owned the lot, he used the funds for something a bit more selfish and got himself an upgraded house. I did stop to take another trip back to Egypt. I wanted to fill in the gallery with some more art, and since it was a warm location, it seemed like something D'Angelo would like. It was a good trip, but my game got corrupted and crashed every time Dee tried to come home. I had to bounce back to a save before the trip, and to be honest, I didn't feel like doing it again, nor did I want to risk the same thing happening again after an hour or so of gameplay, so no more traveling from here. Sorry about that. He took a moment to appreciate Lucky Palms and took some good photos of some of the local architecture instead. Things were going well, until the house spontaneously combusted. Flames aside, some more days of inventing and grinding out paintings, as well as adding some chairs to the lobby and some vending machines for the guests, the gallery was officially over the minimum value threshold and could finally be an official business. With its opening, we have completed another mini challenge by opening our own gallery. The grind to get the value up was slow but steady, but it was finally done, and right before his eyes, one of his favorite muses, Darren, had turned all gray. D'Angelo wanted to document his change, so he spent some time painting him in his old age and placing the photo in the upstairs section of the gallery dedicated to all of his muses. It was not really frequented by the public, but it was special to D'Angelo, so he would not hesitate to add to it when he could. And I think it's safe to say we completed the mini challenge goal of having an area of our gallery dedicated to romantic interests. And with his latest invention of a duck hover thingy, and painting it twice, by the way, I didn't feel like waiting for him to invent something else. He only had like a little sliver left of the painting skill. D'Angelo mastered the painting skill and completed his lifetime wish. If you made it this far in the video, of course, I want to give a huge thank you for watching and for all the support on these videos. I apologize, it can take some time to come out. I try to keep on top of it, but sometimes life can just drain my willpower. I'm sure you all know the feeling. We've all been there, right? Anyways, this was the first video with mini challenges, little additions where the points don't matter, and completing them only gives us that sweet, sweet enjoyment to say that we did. So how did we do? Did we travel to each travel destination at least once? Yes. Yes, we did. Did we have a romantic interest in each location, including the homeworld? Yes. Yes, we did. Did we create an artistic collage dedicated to each romance? Yes. Yes, we did. Did we open an art museum to keep all of our artwork? Yes. Yes, we did. Did we complete at least 3 photography collections? No. No, we didn't do that one. That one didn't work. Gonna be real. I tried on that last one, but some of those are pretty obscure scenarios that I didn't want to force. I was trying to see what I could naturally stumble upon by just exploring the game, and I only completed 1 collection by the end there. Got close to some others, but that one was a failure. So let me know down in the comments below if you think that I should revoke my bragging rights for any of these mini challenges. But with that wraps up this lifetime wish. And I want to say again, thank you all so much for watching. And if you like this video, then please give it a like or don't. That's up to you. But I do hope that you'll come back and join me for more lifetime wishes here on the channel. Thanks all. Bye-bye. No, I didn't forget, and yes, we are still rolling for the lifetime wish and the traits at the end of the episode here. I would still love for you guys to give me any mini challenges that you guys have in mind. Just remember, we try to keep the sim as roleplay friendly to the traits that we roll as possible, and try to keep it within the realm of reasonability for our lifetime wish. So let's see what we're gonna get. Presenting the perfect private aquarium. This is one that I've never actually attempted before. Have at least 13 species of perfect fish in fish bowls. Alright, so we're gonna be a fisherman next time. Cool. Let's see what our traits are. Same rules as before. We're gonna roll for 1 trait in each of the categories, roll for another category, and then roll for another trait in that category. So let's give the wheels a spin. Artistic. Light sleeper. Dislikes children. Frugal. Roll for another category. And the final trait, good sense of humor. Okay, so we are gonna have a fisherman sim that is artistic, a light sleeper, dislikes children, frugal, and a good sense of humor. And before we sign off here, I kinda want to ask you guys a question. So this is the second artistic sim that we've sort of seen, and I believe we've seen childish a couple times as well. How do you guys feel if maybe after we've rolled the trait 2 or 3 times, we sort of put the trait in stasis for a roll? Basically meaning we will definitely not get in like artistic or childish sim or something like that in the next roll, and then we'll put them back in the rolls after that. I'm just trying to get as random as we can, exploring as many things as we can, and I've seen some repeats, and I mean, I work with computers. Random is not always actually random for computers. It's a little weird, but truthfully, I'm seeing some repeats pop up sooner than I would have actually hoped. So I just want to know how you guys feel about that. Don't have to do it. We can leave everything on the wheels. It's just that I'm trying to make sure we stay as big of a variety as possible. And I'd hate to have too many sims that are too similar to one another. And I definitely want to try to experience as many traits. So let me know how you feel about that. And also let me know any mini challenges that you guys have or want to try to see me tackle in the next episode. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.